Hi everyone, please use the mute function for now and turn off your video if you've got it on. We'll be inviting questions during the presentation, so hold your questions until then. Today's webinar is expected to be conducted for 1 hour or up to an hour, and we'll be recording it. It will also be made available afterwards if you'd like the slides. My name is Anna Bratkovic. I'm the NEAS General Manager, and I'm presenting this webinar today with my good colleague and friend Ben Colthorpe, the NEAS Operations Manager. And we've also got Cameron hiding in the background. He's giving us some technical support. So on behalf of the NEAS team, it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's NEAS webinar, How Do I Become a NEAS Endorsed Centre? In today's webinar, we'll be covering who NEAS is. We'll also be looking at the difference and similarities between compliance and quality assurance. We'll then look at the benefits of independent quality assurance, and then move into the features of NEAS endorsement. Then there'll be time for questions and discussions at the end. You can also use the chat function if you have any comments or questions in between. So let's start today by giving some background to NEAS. Who is NEAS? NEAS was established in 1990 as a non-profit organisation. The establishment of NEAS had been instigated by the Australian government following a period of instability in the ELT sector due to an unprecedented number of students, particularly from China, applying to study English in Australia. NEAS provided its accreditation services to each state government until between 2011 and 2012, when the Australian government established two national bodies for accreditation, ASQA and TEQSA. These bodies regulate and register Australia's provision of vocational training, higher education, and ELICOS, which is English language intensive courses for overseas students. NEAS also monitored the Adult Migrant English Program, the AMEP, from 1998 to 2017 across all the states in Australia, and managed the AMEP Assessment Task Bank under contract to the Department of Home Affairs. NEAS has provided quality assurance services for 30 years to universities, vocational education and training providers, to secondary schools and private standalone ELICOS or ELT centres in Australia, across Asia and the Middle East. NEAS applies the same set of quality principles to all of its ELT centres. Let's have a look at quality assurance and compliance. Is there a difference? Well, there is a difference. Government regulators focus on compliance, and NEAS's focus is on quality assurance. Although there are differences between them, there's also some overlap. So let's have a look at both of these separately just for a moment. If we look at compliance, first of all, compliance means meeting your legal responsibilities and obligations. So these relate to laws, regulations and codes. The consequences of not meeting compliance may include losing registration, penalties, fines, and even criminal proceedings. Examples of laws, regulations and codes include the ESOS Act, which you're probably familiar with, the Copyright Act, Occupational Health and Safety Act. The National Code is not an act, but a code that's administered under the ESOS Act. The ELICOS standards are also under the ESOS Act. You've got building codes in each state. And you may also be familiar with the Educational Services Award. Now, if you look at quality assurance, we can see that quality assurance is more like an approach. It's a systematic approach to meeting an organisation's obligations and expectations through developing and managing a range of policies and procedures. The consequences of not meeting quality assurance standards include losing the trust of your customers and employees and increasing costs due to duplication and mistakes. Examples of quality assurance include NEAS Quality Endorsement, the ISO series of standards, Victoria's Quality Tourism Framework, Meet Standards Australia. So what are the benefits of joining independent quality assurance? Engaging in independent quality assurance means engaging with a systematic approach to running your business, as well as joining a community of individuals and organisations which care about quality. An online search of the benefits of quality assurance brought out these comments. Quality assurance is objective. It boosts quality and it builds trust, especially between a business and its customers. Quality assurance gives assurance to the most important stakeholders in your business. And finally, quality assurance provides an external party that validates one's own internal self-assessment. Now, everyone undertakes some level of self-assessment, even if they aren't aware of it or if it's not very systematic. Independent quality assurance, like the quality assurance that NEAS offers, supports and scaffolds self-assessment for both individuals and organisations. And this is an area that NEAS has been promoting and supporting to both providers and individuals over the past 3 years. And all of these benefits to independent quality assurance that you can see on the slide, although they've taken them from a range of different quality assurance organisations, all of these apply to NEAS Quality Assurance. I'd now like to hand over to Ben so that he can take us through what some of the benefits of NEAS Quality Endorsement can offer you. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Anna, and hello everyone. Thank you for joining us again today, and welcome if you've just joined late. We've covered some of the benefits of joining, I guess, any independent quality assurance organisation now. But what about NEAS specifically? I guess that's what I'm here to do today, to outline how NEAS provides objectivity, builds trust, validates internal processes, gives assurance to stakeholders, and ultimately helps centres to boost the quality of their services. So on this current slide, you can see the groups or the categories that NEAS currently has. Centres are NEAS's primary group, as you would be aware. So these are our bread and butter, if you like. And it's really been the success of this group over the past 30 years and the observable benefits of independent quality assurance for ELT centres that has drawn the interest in expanding independent quality assurance processes to other parts of the ELT community, or to other markets, if you like. And so what we're on the cusp of at the moment is building this quality ELT community, and that's really quite exciting. So I'll mainly be outlining the benefits for centres in today's webinar, but I do hope that you'll see that there's a lot of interconnectedness between these different categories, and the strength of one really does benefit the value, or the perceived value, of the others. Now, when it comes to NEAS endorsement, there are various benefits, and NEAS's membership is really quite broad and includes centres in different sectors, different sizes, different countries. So how providers use their NEAS endorsement to meet their business objectives does tend to vary. However, what we typically see is that the benefits fit into three key categories, or key benefits. So I'll be talking to you a little bit about those today. And the first one is really at the heart of everything that we do at NEAS, and it's continuous improvement. So if nothing else, if we could only, I guess, achieve one of these benefits for our members, it would be this one. At the end of the day, we want our members to experience continuous improvement in a meaningful way. So on the slide at the moment is part of the NEAS quality framework. It comprises 8 key areas for ELT centres. And all NEAS quality review activities are centred upon the framework. So when members participate in any NEAS quality review activity, and when they do so openly and honestly, objective feedback and recommendations can be provided in order to facilitate continuous improvement. Now, I emphasize openly and honestly in this point because this really is crucial to getting the most out of your engagement with NEAS. We are problem solvers, and we really enjoy helping providers to overcome or find innovative solutions to various issues, but it does make it very difficult to do so if we're not aware of these problems. So as Anna mentioned earlier, in providing a bit of background to NEAS, NEAS did used to be the industry regulator. And so occasionally we do still see some providers engage with us in this way. Sadly, what we also often see is that some of these members tend to stagnate in their continuous improvement. So in order to sort of put up this perfect front to the quality assurance organisation, they're missing opportunities to get a different perspective on issues, or to have someone kind of look in and offer support and advice. So we would really strongly encourage anyone that's looking to join NEAS or to engage with NEAS to remind themselves that NEAS is not the industry regulator. We are an independent quality assurance body now. We would encourage you to view us as the critical friend. We like to call ourselves the critical friend. We problem solve, and ultimately we want to make you look good. Obviously, we want you to do well, and we want to see you thrive and get lots of students and build your reputation. But on the flip side of that, as a stakeholder of your organisation, NEAS also benefits from you looking good. If you are demonstrating transparency, continuous improvement, and you're offering quality services and courses to students, that's a positive reflection on NEAS quality endorsed centres. So the second benefit that I'd like to speak about is the benefit of recognition and reputation. So in addition to helping centres identify areas for improvement and provide recommendations and support for their continuous improvement, our assessors are also very much on the lookout for strengths and opportunities and areas of excellence. So sometimes a different perspective can help us recognise the value of something that we may have been taking for granted, and this is a general principle of life, really. But when this happens for English language teaching centres, they've got an opportunity in that to implement mechanisms to protect, to nurture, and to really promote those things to the benefit of the centre and its staff. And one of the benefits of being a member of NEAS in this regard is that our perspective is informed by, as I mentioned before, a very broad membership base. We have the privilege of seeing ELICOS centres or English language teaching operate in various contexts, university sectors, independent higher ed, private vet, TAFE, schools, independent language centres, and then of course our international providers as well. A really obvious way that we do this is through the NEAS Premium Product Endorsement. And this is the badge or the logo for Premium Product Endorsement. And so an example might be you've got a course that you've developed in-house to target a niche market. This may be a very innovative, unique course that no other school is currently running. And you may be experiencing very positive outcomes for students in this course. This might be a perfect opportunity for you to apply for a premium product endorsement. There are different standards for premium product endorsement. So part of that process is sort of formalizing your centre's understanding of why this is a quality, innovative, unique course, how it meets these higher standards provided by NEAS. And also we look at things like the design and the innovation of the product, its scope, and the extent that it's reviewed and evaluated in order to be even better. On the NEAS website, we further promote premium products by putting a description within a premium product page in the website. And then on the bottom half of this current slide, you can see this is a school's listing, standard listing on the NEAS website. They're then able to, I guess, collect that gold premium product badge to display on their centre listing as well. In addition to the visibility of those things, of course, there is a process of quality assurance and expert feedback and advice into that product as well. And then I would also mention that you may be familiar with the NEAS Management Conference, which is an event that we hold annually in Sydney, or we were holding annually in Sydney before COVID. But there's plenty of opportunities at the NEAS conference to showcase innovation. And in particular, we have a NEAS Premium Product Showcase whereby providers can talk a little bit more about the conception and the results of their premium products. And so further to the benefit of recognition and reputation, as I mentioned before, each centre does have a listing on the NEAS website. And I'd just like to, I guess from a marketing perspective, just give you some stats on the NEAS website and other aspects of NEAS promotion. The website currently receives over 9,000 views a month. We also have NEAS News, which is our fortnightly newsletter, and that, along with special industry announcements, currently go out to over 10,000 NEAS News recipients. And of course, we use the NEAS News platform as a way to share industry updates and industry news, but we also ensure that we're including announcements about achievements or really shining the spotlight on some of our members from time to time, particularly when they've just completed a significant quality review activity. I mean, the main example that comes to mind is whenever a centre joins NEAS, there's a blurb posted along with the centre's logo in our newsletter. So that's a real statement and a real announcement to the industry that you've made this commitment to independent quality assurance, and it demonstrates that you're proud of that. Again, I mentioned before that NEAS hosts an annual management conference. On this note, the conference attracts over 300 delegates usually, and has multiple opportunities to showcase the quality of our centres. And in addition to this, NEAS also attends other industry conferences in Australia and globally, and we advocate on behalf of our members. So we promote the benefits of the NEAS quality framework and what that signifies, if it's represented by a member. A great example of that are the ISEF conferences, which connect thousands of education agents with providers around the world. And so NEAS plays a strong role there in taking our membership and really promoting our different centres in different states of Australia and talking about the benefits of for students in going to a centre that's independently quality assured. Now, the NEAS quality tick, which you can see in the corner of that slide at the moment, as many of you would probably already be aware, this is very prominent in Australia, having been around for so long. Yes, it's been redesigned, but it's still very much the black tick of quality in regards to English language teaching. We are seeing it gain traction and more recognition throughout ASEAN as well. And that's building as our international operations and transnational focus grows. So when coming on board with NEAS, we strongly encourage centres to really capitalise on this decision and this investment. So that means using that logo as widely as you see fit. For starters, the logo should most certainly be placed on the centre's website and made visible to centre stakeholders on that platform. But in addition to that, any marketing material that's produced, flyers, brochures, information sheets, student handbooks, get the tick in there. The tick should be prominent and it should be really explicit to your customers that you are independently quality assured by NEAS. The logo can also be used on social networking pages. We've seen it put on course certificates as well, which is a really good idea. And then some centres have even gone to the extent of including it on their business cards, and then certainly in their email signatures as well. Further to that, if you're able to include a concise definition of NEAS endorsement, as well as links back to the NEAS website, that just helps to communicate the significance of the endorsement to any students or agents or government bodies that may not be familiar with what it represents. So the third key benefit really comes down to professional development. And apart from the basic regulatory requirement to implement a PD program each year, found in the ELICOS standards, there are countless other reasons why professional development is important. And in-house PD, so things like mini presentations, workshops, peer observations, and mentoring, all of those things are certainly very important, and we absolutely encourage that among our members. But leaving it at that is really quite insular, and often what happens is centres that do that become very sort of inwardly focused and don't have any budget or any interest in looking beyond the centre for professional development opportunities. Sadly, we see some of those centres get a little bit left behind with what's happening in the industry. And in addition to that, we often see that staff are usually quite disengaged in those centres as well. Perhaps they've become sort of very, caught up in the culture of that centre and, just doing things the way that they've always been done. And they don't sort of develop professionally, which is disappointing. So some exposure to external sources of PD is certainly best practice. And if teachers, I'd add that if teachers can be paid or released for occasional external PD opportunities, then that's even better. Now, NEAS isn't the only source of external PD, but it is a good one. And we try to offer something for everyone. And particularly as a result of COVID-19, more and more is now available at the click of a button. And NEAS PD is generally free to all staff of NEAS endorsed centres. And what I'd like to do now is just hand back to Anna, and she's going to just give a little bit more information about our professional development offerings.
Thanks, Ben. Being part of NEAS is not just being part of independent quality assurance. It's also joining NEAS also means joining a professional development community. We offer a very diverse range of PD to, of course, a very diverse range of individuals that work in ELT. Ben mentioned a number of times our conference. We have an annual management conference that runs every year, except for this year. We've been running the conference for, over 20 years, 25 years. It's open to everyone in the ELT community, both in Australia and internationally. It typically runs over 2 to 3 days and has traditionally been offered in Sydney. But as a result of COVID, our next conference will be offered as a hybrid of face-to-face and online. So it's always worth keeping up to date, checking out our website and seeing what the latest news is on our website for the conference. But that's not the only thing that NEAS does for professionals in the ELT community. We also offer a range of NEAS professional development courses. We have moved, as a result of the COVID situation, we've moved all of our webinars, which used to be face-to-face quality learning series workshops. So everything's been moved onto online. We've also taken all of our core courses that had a blended approach. We've put them all online, and we've created new courses this year so that teachers and other ELT staff needn't feel isolated. They can enroll, you can enroll for free in any core course. All of our NEAS core courses are aligned to one of our principles. We also have 6 specialisations and a master practitioner in ELT. These have been designed specifically to support the community in trying to build up your capacity in quality assurance. Our webinars are delivered, such as this one. You can see this is a screenshot from our website. Our webinars are delivered to support the community and to support our communities of practice. They are free, and we hope that you can enrol in them. They are offered every month. We also have, as I said, the online courses, and we have workshops that are being offered through many of our sponsors. We have one this afternoon, actually, at 4 o'clock that's being run, that we're running, but it is being presented on behalf of Pearson. David Booth, who's a very well-known specialist in ELT and assessment, will be offering that workshop or webinar free. So 4 o'clock, come back, and you'll see one of our other types of webinars that we offer. So back to Ben. What else? What other benefits do we have at NEAS?
Sure, thanks, Anna. So as I mentioned before, that there really are various benefits, and we do see centres capitalising on those in different ways. We covered the big 3, which were continuous improvement, recognition and reputation, and professional development. In addition to that, these are some other ones that we do offer. NEAS Assist in particular is our, I guess it's our consultancy service, if you like. It is an additional paid service, so there are additional competitive fees for advice and assistance in a number of areas, and we've seen in the past couple of years, centres take advantage of NEAS Assist services for things like writing new curriculums, for more comprehensive course review and evaluation activities. Certainly with changes in the ELICOS standards, benchmarking, there was a real need for formal benchmarking activities, and NEAS Assist offered that. Any research projects or mentoring of new leaders, new academic managers, we can do that. And then another really important tool as well, which we've done a few of as well, are our health check audits. So ahead of any regulatory audit that the centre might be facing, you're very welcome to contact NEAS and have, I guess, a practice run with one of our assessors as well. And there are many more. So to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty, we're going to look at what's actually involved in applying for NEAS. Perhaps before we do this, can I ask you to flick your cameras on so I can see who's there? I can see the names. You all still with me?
Yep, so you should be able to unmute and also be able to put on your video.
Anyone willing to show their face? Hi, Maria. Is Cam, are they able to unmute themselves? Hi, Babak.
Oh, we've got a couple of responses that their camera's not working or freezing.
Okay. Everyone's sitting around in their pajamas, perhaps.
You might be.
No, I live in the mountains, so the camera freezes.
No worries, that's fine.
That's all right.
So I think we've got a couple of people in this group that perhaps are at this point. You're looking at considering either beginning an application or perhaps even at the point where you're ready to submit. But I'm curious, perhaps Maria, are you can you able to unmute?
Mute.
Are you there?
Yes, hello. I'm on my iPad and I've got my computer in the background.
Sure, no worries. So this next part, I guess, is really looking at providers coming on board as a new provider. And as you're working for an existing centre, I'm wondering sort of what you're hoping to get out of this workshop and what perhaps you'd like me to cover in this next section.
Look, what you've presented already has been great, so it's kind of a reminder. And I liked how you said that we can use the NEAS tick on our courses, on our student workbooks or certificates. That's great to know.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly for some centres, for some bigger institutions, perhaps there's been restrictions around, for brand confusion, they've not been able to use the logo on certain documents. But I think in many circumstances, what we've seen, and this is on us a little bit for not communicating clearly enough how the logo should be used, is that centres are not sure if they're allowed to use the logo. From our perspective, the more that you can get it out there and promote yourself as being quality endorsed, the better. And if you ever need to kind of reach out to us when you're putting together new flyers or new brochures or a new web page, you can certainly consult us and check if it's okay to include different variations of our logos and badges as well. Okay, so just to move on with the presentation, as I said, this is sort of very much focused now on if you're at the point of submitting a new application. But if you are currently working for an endorsed centre, then certainly it's good to be aware of what's involved and what kind of hurdles new providers are required to jump over in order to join NEAS. And so what I've got here is an excerpt from a document that's readily available on the NEAS website. It's called A Plain Guide to Quality Endorsement. It used to be perhaps 2 or 3 pages. It's now about 8. But the reason for that is it also now includes information on what's involved in maintaining that endorsement. And particularly since the NEAS quality review cycle has changed a little bit over the last couple of years, it's important that that's kind of put forward clearly. So I would encourage you to download that document just to have on hand. It's available in the resources section of our website, but we're actually going to make this presentation available afterwards, and we've included the link in the notes section. So put simply, the application process involves, I guess, 4 main steps or 4 main processes. The first is submitting documentary evidence. The second is paying a fee, paying an application fee, addressing any NEAS feedback that comes from that application, and participating in a quality review meeting. Now, a question that we often receive from new applicants is, how long does this process take? And our response is, I don't mean it to be a cop-out, but how long is a piece of string? This really does vary depending on the institution, and it usually comes down to 2 main variables. The first is the quality, and I put in inverted commas, the existence of all of the necessary policies, procedures and evidence that is required. So for, I guess, a more mature centre, perhaps a larger institution that may have a little bit more structured governance, usually this is not an issue, and there's quite a lot of policies and procedures that just need to be compiled and submitted to NEAS in an orderly way. But the other main variable really comes down to the applicant's capacity to work on the application. And so we would, I guess, recommend aiming for 6 to 12 weeks for an application from start to endorsement. Historically, if an application takes longer than 12 weeks, what tends to happen is it sort of becomes shelved. The applicant tends to move on with other priorities and just sort of chips away at it. And what this does is it can then take exponentially longer to complete the application, but also it starts to, any lessons learned or any new things that have been gained from that kind of feedback process with NEAS about how to improve things, that all kind of falls a little bit by the wayside, and it becomes a bit of a chore to get this application completed. So we really encourage centres to allocate a project manager or allocate someone that's tasked with doing this in a finite period of time, and then they've got the capacity to really focus on it and make sure that everything's submitted clearly and that they can promptly respond to feedback and rectifications. They're able to set up the quality review meeting and kind of process that all within 6 to 12 weeks. That would be ideal. Very idealistic, and obviously these are very challenging times. So the extent that that's practical would depend on the centre, but we would encourage you to try to manage the application in that way. It's also important or recommended, I guess, to liaise with NEAS about milestones and a timeline. What we've done with some centres that's been really beneficial is we've negotiated, okay, what's the end date or the time by which you need to have endorsement, and we've put in, say, 3 checkpoints into Outlook as a joint calendar item. It just keeps everybody on track, everybody accountable, and I get discrete parts that you can kind of work on stage by stage. This is really effective for some centres, and we'd be more than happy to work with you in that way if that's how you would like to go about submitting your application to NEAS. And I think that rather abruptly brings us to the end of the webinar, now's the time to ask any questions or ask for any further information. Anna and I have plenty of time to cover some extra information. You can either use the chat or, Cam, if we can maybe get them to unmute themselves.
Yep. So we've got it's been unticked. So yeah, just feel free to ask any initial questions.
Narada has got her hand up.
Yeah, g'day. I came in about 10 minutes late, so if this has already been answered, I apologise. But I guess my question is around, so when I think of NEAS, I think of like your original CRICOS or ELICOS audit, where they have to check out the facilities and the premises and the courses and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess with the movement towards online, does the courses that you endorse have to be, do they have to have a base? So as an ELICOS college, we're not even sure if we're going to make it through this pandemic, but perhaps the new model for us might be, not CRICOS registered or not ELICOS, but still have courses that could potentially be endorsed by NEAS.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had different variations of that question over the past few months as well. So, I mean, Anna, I can have a crack at this, and then if you want to jump in with any additional information from your perspective. But you hit the nail on the head in saying that you can put any course forward to NEAS. We don't need a course to be a registered ELICOS course offered to international students. And an example is we currently endorse a fully online English language school. It's called E2 Language. They offer courses to people all around the world, and they're not ELICOS courses. We are an independent quality assurance body, so certainly we are able to provide that type of support for any course, any product, any service. With everything that's happening with the move to online, we've been promoting our online standards. So we do have a set of standards in the framework currently, Area H, which are our online standards. And among our members, we've had them or offered them a health check, whereby they've run their emergency remote delivery or online learning models through the health check against the Area H standards, and that's helped them to, I guess, look at areas where they can, improve or do things better. Keeping in mind that we sort of weren't aware how long centres would need to be doing this. So, Anna, is there anything else that you'd add there?
Yeah, I guess the second question, and it's probably written in the documentation, but it's a bit of a burning question for me. So, and again, traditionally when we get our courses accredited, it's a large PDF. With the online, it would the when we submit the curriculum, can that be in a web page format? Because what we've had to do is take all that PDF and put it in, put it on the internet anyway. And of course, PDFs are, they're difficult to make changes to. Whereas if it was just done straight away on the website web pages with links and things, is that how would you be able to check the curriculum like that, or do we still kind of need the traditional pen and paper, like checking boxes and things?
Are you referring to your syllabus? Your
yes,
syllabus
yeah.
is currently online?
The one that we're working on, yes. So because we've taken the one that we have registered with CRICOS, and now we have to put all that on the internet, which has to change slightly, but it's still essentially the same thing, same outcomes. But there is, there's that, formatting again, and, all those fiddly things which are very time consuming and not really what we're interested in. It has nothing to do with the content, so to speak.
Yeah. I think I understand what you're asking. Look, I guess we'd encourage you to have, formal documentation and syllabus documents as perhaps Word documents behind anything that you're going to be putting online, particularly since we don't really know what's going to happen in the future around ELICOS courses being offered online and the regulation of those courses. So I think while we've seen, and understandably, centres have had to very quickly get things ready to offer some kind of service to their students online, it's really encouraged that anything, you know, moving forward with online delivery, you know, starting to build that documentation and make sure everything is set up and work on continuous improvement for those courses. Anna, would you add anything?
What I'd like to say is that we know what we're looking at. Whatever you submit to NEAS, what quality assurance. The two things that compliance and quality assurance have in common is that there are a set of requirements, and then the agency that is measuring whether you've met those requirements is looking for evidence. So it doesn't matter so much what form the evidence comes to us in, whether it's a PDF or a Word document, or whether it's a documentation or evidence that's online. What we're looking for is just that for us to look at what you have, what the evidence is, what your course looks like, and how they meet our standards. So even though all of your online courses may well be sitting in an online format, what we're interested in is what we're asking for. It doesn't differ at all from any other context. We still want to know who your students are, what the outcomes of the course are, what are the materials that you're going to use, how are you going to judge whether the students have met those learning outcomes, in other words, the assessment, how you do the reviews, who your teachers are, all of that. Doesn't matter what format you submit it in, so long as we can assess it. So that doesn't matter to us so much. I also wanted to also mention that our online standards predate COVID. So we were already prepared for the pandemic. We didn't have online courses because we knew that COVID was coming. Not at all. We wrote those standards because there is already a trend towards blended or flipped learning within all educational contexts around the world. And we could see that there were providers that were online who didn't have to be NEAS endorsed, but chose to be NEAS endorsed because they wanted a quality tick. So we felt that it was important to offer them the same level of service as we would offer a bricks and mortar institution. So we're kind of prepared for anything. So you can submit your documentation in any form, preferably in English, because that's that's our common language. But apart from that, we will accept a range of forms. Yeah.
I understand. Thanks, Anna. Yep. It's good to know that the flexibility's there. I was just going to say that the flexibility needs to be there moving forward, I think. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, we've always been we're small and we're flexible. We're pretty nimble, and we've got a good team with a range of different skills. So we can, we can basically deal with anything, can't we, Ben?
Yeah.
Cameron.
Thanks, Narada. Thanks for your questions.
No problem.
Babak, you had a couple of questions I think you sent us beforehand. Would you like to raise those now, or are you happy for me to just tackle them from what you've emailed?
Hi again, Ben and everyone. Yes, maybe the questions are kind of specific that I should have sent to you. But so some questions about those focus groups that NEAS says we conduct. So what are the purposes and who should be in those groups?
The purpose of a focus group is to get feedback from various stakeholders, and we do that in more than one way. So we have surveys that go out first to different stakeholder groups, and then there's only so far you can go with a survey. So if we identify any issues or any things that are really good from the surveys, the focus groups are really great opportunity then to dig a little deeper and kind of unpack those responses to understand what the stakeholders are thinking. So we do surveys and focus groups for each stakeholder group in order to capture that data. In terms of who should be included, it's a good question because it is something we've had to clarify several times with over the years with some providers. We have a management meeting, which is not so much a focus group, but it would be a meeting throughout the day with one or two members of the management team in order to lead the quality review visit or meeting or whatever process is happening. With the focus groups, we have a professional staff focus group, which we see different staff members in different centres join that, but typically that would be marketing staff, administration staff, receptionists, student advisors, and even people like IT and cleaners are very welcome to join that focus group. We have a teachers focus group and we have a student focus group. It's kind of 4 groups that we're targeting, and what's most important is that they are discrete groups. So we don't want any influence or crossover of people in the groups. We want to hear kind of independent feedback from those different stakeholder groups in order to reveal the most accurate evidence and outcome for the centre. So in doing that, we can triangulate everything and we can kind of give you some valuable feedback as to what different stakeholders are feeling about the centre and its services. I hope that answers your question. And just to add on that as well, we've been maintaining that same model since moving to online processes as well. So currently we're doing our quality review visits virtually, but nothing has changed in terms of running a management meeting, a professional, a teachers and a student focus group. It's just all done via Zoom.
Great. Thank you, Ben. Thank you very much.
No worries at all. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, I think we might leave it there. If anybody does have more specific questions or anything more they'd like from us, by all means, give us a call, send us an email. I'm more than happy to have a chat with you about where you're currently at, where your centre's currently at. But if you are considering putting in an application soon, I look forward to receiving that and working with you. If you've just joined for a refresher and something to do on your Wednesday afternoon, then thank you very much for being part of today. And yep, we hope to stay in touch over the coming months.